what is up guys, welcome back to the channel. And first off, before we get into it, good news, today will be the last video like this. The last 3 nights I haven't been able to put as much edits into the videos, I guess, because my PC, as you can see back there, yeah, my plug for it, let me go grab it and show you. Do not ask me how this happened because even I don't know. Just one day I went to plug in my PC and I was like, oh, that should be like that. I was like, maybe it'll still work. I plugged it in, didn't work. I tried the whole duct tape trick, and yeah, I couldn't bring this baby back to life. So I went on Amazon, and I found another plug to replace this. It was literally only $3, but it's also only a 1-foot cord, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work in my setup. I'm going to have my PC right next to that outlet. So I'm just hoping there's never any sort of, like, electrical problems where the PC is going to zap my outlet and, like, just burn my house down. I also ordered more CR2032 batteries because for some reason, for as long as I've had my PC, every time I go to turn it on, I've had to reset the CR2032. I always have to take it out, put it back in, and then re-plug in the PC and do all that. And I'm thinking it's just because I have a faulty battery in there, so hopefully that'll fix the problem. If not, it's not that big of a deal to just take out a part and put it back in. So yeah, for the last couple nights I've been editing on a Acer E15. Doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. However, it's definitely better than when I first pulled it out of the box. I actually went in and modded it. I put in like extra RAM, put some more storage and stuff in there like that. Get it running a bit better, like an SSD and everything like that. Anyway, nerdy tech stuff aside, the thing you actually came here to watch. So right now I am playing through Crash 4, and again, since my PC isn't working, I haven't been able to capture footage like I normally would when I talk about games, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to talk about it. So Crash 4 was probably my most anticipated game of the year that I came out. What was it? It was either 2021 or 2020. And yeah, I was so excited for it, but unfortunately I never got to get it because it never came out on like Game Pass or PS Now or anything like that. And I just, you know, I don't always have an abundance of money, and I still wanted to go back and play through the Insane trilogy, so I actually did that. I went back and purchased that game. I just beat all 3 of the Insane Trilogy games this year. Went back and replayed Twinsanity, because Twinsanity is the one that I actually used to play the most as a kid. That's the one I have the most nostalgia for. Like, believe it or not, I did not even play Crash 1 through 3 until this year. Like, all my nostalgia for Crash and all the anticipation I had built up for it was just from my youth when I used to play Twinsanity, which is a pretty controversial game to say the least. Also dabbled around with Tag Team Racing, which was a little bit of an iffy game, and Nitro Kart, which I actually really liked, which apparently is basically just Crash Team Racing, but dumbed down a little bit, or maybe different, I don't know, but it was a really fun game for me. I enjoyed it nonetheless. That being said, with all my nostalgia resting on what is one of the most controversial Crash games, that being Twinsanity, you know, he's always been one of my favorite platforming characters, right up there with Mario and all that. And yeah, Crash 4, it definitely didn't disappoint, and this may be a hot take, but I'm going to say that Crash 4, out of the original trilogy and just Crash games in general, is probably my favorite game. It just takes everything from the original 3 games that made it so good and just puts even more into it. Now you got multiple playable characters. When before it was only Crash and Coco, and they were pretty similar in their playstyles. Now you have Crash, Coco, Tawna, Cortex, Dingodile, and they all have unique ways that they play. Cortex's levels are more like puzzle-based. Dingodile, his levels are really easy, but you just go through, you do your tail spins, you do your hover vacuum things. Tawna's a badass, she got a grappling hook, and there's so many different playstyles between all of the characters. Coco and Crash are still pretty similar. In fact, you can switch between them at any time because in cutscenes, they're always like together canonically, so you can switch between them at any time. It doesn't really matter, just in the main menus before you start the levels. And the variety in this game keeps it from getting stale, which on its own, I've never gotten bored of Crash games. Like, they never really get stale in my opinion, but it just, for anybody that would for some reason run into fatigue with a Crash game, you don't got to worry about that here. This is also one of the most diverse Crash games I've ever seen in terms of like locations and stuff. You go all the way back from dinosaur ages, you know, BC times, up to 3023 or something like that at some point. It is insane. There was so much variety in the levels, because it's you know, the normal Crash type thing where you're time traveling and traveling through rifts and dimensions and this, that, and the other. It's been in a lot of games up to this point, but this one just really takes advantage of it. And now that this is a game purely built for this generation of consoles, it blows me away how good it looks and how just well all the levels work together in their designs. The soundtrack, of course, is also slapping here as always. And I was pretty surprised when I heard Dingodile and Tawna. Like, they weren't like full-on cussing, like, you know, dropping F and S bombs and stuff, but there was one point where Dingodile was like, it's time to go get these bastards, and then Tawna was like, yeah, Crash, go give them hell. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are not the characters I remember, but hey, you know, I'm cool with it. A more mature, darker take on Crash. I mean, we kind of saw that with like Twinsanity, but I mean, if they're gonna go a little more edgy with it, I'm down for it. When I'm having trouble with a game, I always go to Reddit to see if I'm the only one having this, just to see if I suck or not, and definitely not. Crash games are notorious for being hard, but this game, it goes from being like, you know, your decent Crash thing, like if you played Crash before, you're not gonna have a problem. If you haven't played Crash, you might struggle a bit. But then once you get further in the game, it gets to a point where even the most seasoned Crash players are going to struggle. And, you know, I grew up during that time where it was those BS platformers, what I call them, you know, those ones where it's like, if you're not on the pixel, you are going to fall through. I played so many platformers in my days where if you miss it by just the smidge of a pixel, you're going to drop. Like, I'm used to games like that, but even that being said, this game is going to give you a run for your money. I mean, most of the jumps in this game aren't even like precision based. A lot of it just does come down to like the level design and all the different things. You'll be jumping from moving platforms to running across these weird tube shaped things with these like electrical zapper things that constantly turning and spinning, which means you got to run all around them. It's just, and enemies, I hate the one enemy in Cortex's castle that pops up everywhere. It's these stupid rats that have like these spike shields. And then you're balancing all the enemies and all the different varieties. Oh, and the stupid electric cockroaches, don't get me started on those. And then you have the masks that pop up from time to time. You got the gravity mask, the time mask, the dark matter spin mask, and then the one that makes things phase in and out of different dimensions and stuff. I'm not going to go too into it. I don't want to spoil everything here, just in case you guys haven't played yet and just kind of watching this before you hop into it to see if it's something worth your time. If that is the case, if that's what you're watching this for, then yes, please give this game a try. If you haven't played the original Crash games, please go pick up the Insane Trilogy. The boss fights in this game are also really good, but I'm gonna say they're a lot easier than the older ones. I'm not sure if it's just because they have more checkpoints or if it's some with their design. I remember being stuck for like almost an hour or two at a time on some of the original, specifically Crash 1. Crash 1's definitely the hardest Crash. And that was the first official Crash game I'll play. So I know most people don't really count all the games after Crash Warp to really be official. So, you know, Twinsanity back in the day wasn't really that difficult because that was more of like a Super Mario 64 game where it's not exactly like that, but you know what I mean? Like open worlds, open environments, do what you gotta do. But Crash 1 was the first official like linear Crash game I played, and oh my God, that game is brutal. But anyways, yeah, like that game, a lot of the boss fights, like the final boss, or just trying to figure out like how some of the bosses work, I remember getting stuck on those for a really long time. In this one, I usually knock them out in like 5-10 minutes, really not a big deal. Those are actually the levels I look forward to, because then I know I'm going to have a break, which is not how it should be, but at the same time, if you're right now I'm also playing this game on modern mode. I'm definitely going to replay it on retro mode just to see how that changes it, to see if it makes the game any hard. Well, I mean, it'll definitely make it harder, especially on the boss fights. But I feel like now that you have unlimited lives in this game, it makes it more accessible, and I would say play it that way on a first playthrough, because there are some really difficult spots in this game where you have to run through it multiple times to learn the scripting of everything, like when certain platforms are going to come your way, when certain platforms are going to go against it to try to knock you off. Like, there was a lot of things like that in this game, so I would highly recommend, even if you think you're all that and you played a bunch of Crash games, just like I thought I was, yeah, you definitely play it on modern. I'm glad I went with that. Also to note, this game is hell for any completionist. I took one look at it, I was like, I've completed, you know, a couple Crash games in my time. Then I looked at it, saw the inverted levels, saw all the gems, and I was just like, oh. Then I saw the flashback tapes, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'll play for your 6 to 8 hours now. I'll go through modern. In a week or two, I'll come back, give it another 8-10 hours, go through the retro mode, because I'm sure it's going to take me longer, so I'll die a bunch. But I'm not going to spend the next, like, 3 months of my life dying over and over and screaming at my TV and putting myself through literal mental hell just to complete this game. No thank you. However, I will say, going for some of the completionist things are worth it. Some of the skins in this game are pretty dope, and the names for some of them are a little questionable. I don't remember the full name of it, but there was like one called Crash something Erectus. So there's a lot of jokes in this game like that too. Like a lot of the level names are, like the first one is called Booty Calls. You're going on a pirate ship, but like, come on. Like I said, right now I'm on the second to last level right before the final boss fight. Won't give away any of the story implications here, but it's a level I'm struggling with a good bit. It's kind of like a final gauntlet, a final hoorah. You're bouncing between all the different mass abilities, you know, you're gravity shifting, going up and down, phasing through objects, doing your dark matter spins, gliding through the air, slowing down time, trying to not get like chopped in half by all these spinning neocortex things. Like, it's a gauntlet. It's pretty tough. I was looking on Reddit, and I was actually kind of sad to see that a lot of people actually gave up on the game on this level just because it's that freaking difficult. And While I'm definitely not going to because I'm right at the end of the game, and that's just not how I am. See, with me, I balance time and time wasted, and for me, I'm always like, is it worth beating this game? But for me, I always say yes, because the second I put even 2 minutes into a game, I'm like, well, that's 2 minutes I'm gonna get back. And even if I go through and finish this long game, this 8-hour game, that's also even more time that I'll never get back. But then again, I already put these 2 minutes into it, so why not just go through and see the adventure if I already started it? You know what I mean? So that's why even if a game is good or bad, I always end up giving it a shot anyway, because I refuse to waste my time. If I started something, I'm going to finish it, and Crash is no exception, especially considering I've been anticipating this game for so long. And, even with the difficulty, I actually like the difficulty. I don't like when games are too easy. It makes it boring, makes me turn my brain off, become unimmersed, and not even know what's going on just because my brain's over here in La La Land while my fingers are on autopilot. Look, I play so many games at this point, like, I don't need to use my brain to play the video games. I need something actually challenging for my brain to have to work. Not to be Mr. Cliche over here, but yes, this is the Dark Souls of platformers, if you would want to put it that way. The Dark Souls of 3D platformers. But yeah, I'm no point in me going on and on anymore. I've said what I think I need to say, and I feel like if I say any more or go into any more, I might be kind of spoiling some things for some new players, so yeah. If you haven't played it, definitely go ahead, and if you have played it, don't spoil anything in the comments, and if you do, just please give a nice spoiler warning. But anyway, let me know what you think. Do you guys like this game as much as I do? Like I said, personally, I think it may be my favorite Crash game. I'll have to get to the ending first to see what I officially think of it. But I just felt like I just needed to come on here and say this. And right now I'm kind of taking a break. I just got done with a pretty hefty play session. Just got done with almost beating my controller into a bloody pulp. I was getting pretty mad. So I just needed to cool down and remind myself why I love the game so much. And I will give my final thoughts on the game on my What I've Been Playing This Week episode that I do every single Sunday. Anyway, as always, a shout out to the patrons, Fav Grandma, and Lil Bootytap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you guys back here tomorrow at 7. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Stay beautiful. Peace.